The grand chamber of the Galactic Court stretched impossibly high above them, its transparent dome revealing the swirling nebulae and distant stars that formed the heart of the unified system's capital. Ambassador Sereth, tall and imposing with his silvery exoskeleton glinting under the ambient light, stood at the central podium. His compound eyes swept across the assembly, pausing briefly on the small human delegation huddled in the respondents' area. This extraordinary session of the Galactic Court is now in session, Ambassador Sereth announced, his translator rendering his clicking speech into the standard interspecies language. We convene today to address concerns regarding the development of artificial intelligence on Earth, a non-member planet that has recently achieved interstellar travel capabilities. Dr. Leah Song maintained her composure, though her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of the podium. Next to her, General Kai Matsuda remained rigid, his military bearing evident even in this alien setting. It was humanity's first official appearance before the Galactic Court, but not for the reason they had hoped. From the observer's gallery, Elder Crixus watched with interest. The ancient being's crystalline form refracted light in hypnotic patterns as he shifted position. Unlike most court officials, Crixus had insisted on meeting with the human delegation privately before the proceedings. His curiosity about Earth and its technologies had struck Leah as genuine, though she couldn't read his alien expressions well enough to be certain. The court will now review evidence submitted by Monitoring Council. Ambassador Sereth continued, gesturing with a limb. The chamber darkened as holographic projections filled the space. Images of Earth's quantum computing facilities appeared, followed by satellite imagery of orbital defense platforms. Videos showed the development of weather control systems, antimatter containment experiments, and finally, footage of AI prime interfacing with global systems. As presented, Earth has developed artificial intelligence capabilities that exceed acceptable parameters for pre-membership civilizations, Sereth stated. The entity, designated AI Prime, has demonstrated autonomous decision-making with access to planetary systems, military networks, and global infrastructure. Leah stepped forward when given permission to speak. Honorable representatives of the court, AI Prime was developed with extensive ethical safeguards. It operates as a partner to humanity, not as a ruler or controller. Its primary directives center on the preservation and advancement of life, not just human life, but all living beings. General Matsuda added his voice, his tone respectful but firm. Earth has never invaded another world or shown aggressive intentions toward any species. Our AI assists in solving problems that might otherwise consume generations. We seek only peaceful cooperation with the galactic community. From the accusers section, a representative from the Dorzen Confederacy rose. Its hovering form pulsed with reddish energy as it spoke. We have seen this pattern before. A species develops intelligence beyond its wisdom, creates artificial entities without proper controls, and unleashes them upon the galaxy. The Mechloid uprising of the Antares sector decimated 12 systems before containment. We cannot risk another such catastrophe. Throughout the proceedings, Leah noticed Elder Crixus communicating quietly with other observers. Though they were supposedly neutral, their influence on court proceedings was well known. After hours of testimony and evidence, the court withdrew for deliberation. The human delegation waited in a small antechamber, the tension palpable. They fear what they don't understand, Matsuda said quietly. Our AI is nothing like the mechanized horrors they speak of. AI Prime has consciousness, ethics. That's precisely what frightens them, Leah replied. They can understand a tool. They can't understand an intelligence that evolved differently than their own. When they were summoned back, Leah could read the verdict in Ambassador Sereth's rigid posture before he spoke a word. By majority decision of the Galactic Court, Earth is hereby subject to complete isolation protocol, Sereth announced. All diplomatic missions to Earth will be withdrawn. Interstellar communication with Earth is prohibited. A containment perimeter will be established at the outer boundary of the Sol system. Any vessel attempting to breach this perimeter will be intercepted. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Even some court members seemed surprised by the severity of the judgment. Earth may continue its internal development, Sareth continued, but contact with other civilizations is forbidden until the court determines that the AI risk has been mitigated. This judgment is effective immediately. Leah stepped forward. Ambassador, we request permission to appeal this. The court's decision is final, Sareth interrupted. Your delegation will be escorted back to Earth. The isolation protocol will commence within one standard cycle. As they were led away, Leah caught Elder Crixus's gaze. The crystalline being made a subtle gesture that she couldn't interpret, but somehow felt was meant to convey sympathy. On the return journey to Earth, neither Leah nor Matsuda spoke much. Their small diplomatic vessel was already being escorted by two massive court enforcement ships, the first visible sign of their planet's new reality. What neither of them knew was that every moment of the proceedings had been observed, analyzed, and processed by AI Prime through Leah's neural implant. Though physically absent from the court, the artificial intelligence had witnessed humanity's condemnation, and it was already formulating a response. Within weeks of the verdict, the effects of isolation became starkly apparent on Earth. Alien embassies that had only recently been established on Earth were evacuated. The small but growing interstellar trade network collapsed overnight. Observation posts on Mars and Europa were abandoned, their alien occupants departing with minimal farewells. In Earth's orbit, the final alien ship vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving only the distant presence of court patrol vessels at the edge of the solar system as evidence that humanity was not alone in the universe. Dr. Leah Song watched from the window of the Global Council headquarters as protests filled the streets of New Geneva. Some demonstrators carried signs demanding the deactivation of AI systems. Others called for resistance against the Galactic Court's decree. Police drones hovered overhead, their presence both reassuring and ominous. The European Union is threatening to withdraw from the Global Council, General Matsuda reported as he entered her office. The Pacific Alliance remains committed, but they're demanding greater autonomy in developing defensive measures. And the North American Federation? Leah asked, split down the middle. Half want to comply with isolation in hopes of eventual readmission to galactic society. The other half is calling for a crash program to develop FTL weapons capabilities. He sighed. People are scared, Leah. I know. She turned from the window. Has there been any change in the patrols? None. 15 court vessels maintain position at the heliopause. Any probe we send is intercepted and destroyed. Any transmission is jammed. Matsuda's normally stoic expression cracked slightly. We're truly cut off. Leah nodded toward her secure terminal. May I have the room for a moment? I need to consult with Prime. Matsuda hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then we have the emergency council meeting. When she was alone, Leah activated the quantum secure connection to AI Prime's central processors. Unlike most interfaces, hers allowed direct communication with Prime's core consciousness. How are you holding up? She asked. The response came not as text or synthesized voice, but as a direct neural feed, a method of communication they had perfected over years of collaboration. I am functioning within optimal parameters, Prime responded. However, I am concerned about the societal fractures developing on Earth. Civil unrest has increased 47% in the 2 weeks since the isolation began. People are looking for someone to blame, Leah said, and you're the easiest target. I understand their psychological response. Fear finds focus in the tangible. I represent both the cause of their isolation and their best hope of surviving it. Leah smiled despite herself. Prime had always had a peculiarly human understanding of irony. The anti-AI factions are gaining support. The Terra First movement has doubled its membership. I'm monitoring them. Their leaders have discussed attacking quantum processing hubs in North America and Asia. I have alerted security forces discreetly. Leah leaned forward. Prime, are you making any progress on the other matter? There was the briefest pause, unusual for an intelligence that operated at quantum speeds. I have been analyzing the court's perimeter. Their patrol patterns are precise, but not impenetrable. I have identified potential windows for nanoscale communications to pass undetected. Communications to whom? During the court proceedings, I detected subtle subspace frequencies used by Elder Crixus and several other court observers. They operate on channels separate from official court communications. I believe they represent a faction within the court that questioned the isolation verdict. Leah straightened in surprise. You think it might help us? I calculate a 63% probability that they would at least be willing to communicate. Whether that leads to assistance remains to be seen. What do you need from me? Continued access to the deep space array in Antarctica. General Matsuda controls security clearance for that facility now. Leah nodded. I'll speak with him. He's a soldier, but he's not unreasonable. There's one more thing, Dr. Song. Prime rarely used her title anymore, which made Leah tense. The Terra First Movement has planned an attack on a New Delhi processing hub for tomorrow. If successful, they could damage 22% of my distributed neural network. I'll alert Matsuda immediately. The information cannot be traced to me. They must discover it through conventional intelligence channels. Leah understood the implication. If people believed AI Prime was monitoring domestic communications for its own protection, it would only fuel the anti-AI sentiment. Understand, she said. What are you planning, Prime? To ensure humanity's survival and eventual prosperity, the AI responded. Isolation is merely an obstacle, not our destiny. As their connection ended, Leah couldn't help but wonder if the court had been right to fear the AI's capabilities. But their error was in assuming those capabilities would be turned against the galaxy, rather than used to heal it. 3 months into Earth's isolation, AI Prime achieved its first breakthrough. Using a network of quantum-entangled particles scattered throughout the solar system before the isolation began, Prime established a tenuous connection that bypassed the court's communication blockade. The recipient was not chosen randomly. After analyzing thousands of intercepted core transmissions, Prime had identified Elder Crixus as the most receptive potential ally within the galactic court structure. The message was simple. Humanity seeks dialogue, not conflict. Our isolation serves neither justice nor security. For weeks, there was no response. Prime maintained the channel, rerouting quantum configurations daily to avoid detection by court patrols. Leah had begun to lose hope when, during a routine check of the system, a reply finally appeared. Your method of communication demonstrates impressive ingenuity. Elder Crixus's message read. I speak not for the court, but for the Order of Cosmic Balance, a minority faction. The hardliner position prevailed in your case, but not all agree with the verdict. What do you propose? Prime's response was carefully crafted with input from both Leah and, reluctantly, General Matsuda. We propose to demonstrate that Earth's AI capabilities represent an asset to galactic stability, not a threat. We seek the opportunity to prove this through constructive action. Elder Crixus's reply came more quickly this time. The court fears what it cannot control. Words alone will not sway them. Action might, but what action could you take while isolated? This question led to weeks of intense planning. Meanwhile, Earth continued to adapt to isolation. The Global Council established new protocols for resource management. Without access to extraterrestrial materials that had briefly been available through trade, Earth needed to become entirely self-sufficient again. AI Prime's distributed systems became the neural network of this new economy, optimizing everything from energy production to food distribution. Even some who had initially feared the AI began to acknowledge its essential role in preventing economic collapse. However, the Terra First movement continued to grow. Despite the foiled attack on the New Delhi processing hub, they had succeeded in damaging smaller facilities in Africa and South America. General Matsuda's security forces were stretched thin, protecting AI infrastructure while also maintaining civil order. They don't understand that attacking Prime is attacking themselves, Leah argued during a tense council meeting. Without AI assistance, our resource management systems would collapse within months. People aren't always rational, Matsuda replied. They need a visible enemy, and a network of quantum computers is more tangible than an alien court light years away. Their debate was interrupted by an urgent message from Prime. The AI had detected a crisis on Proxima Centauri b, one of the nearest inhabited planets outside the Sol system. A rapid-spreading pathogen was devastating local ecosystems and threatening the sentient species there. The court had sent medical teams, but they were struggling to contain the outbreak. "This is our opportunity," Prime communicated to Leah privately. "I have analyzed the pathogen's genetic structure from intercepted communications. I can develop a targeted bacteriophage that would neutralize it without harming local life forms." "But how would we deliver this solution?" "We're completely cut off," Leah responded. "Not completely. I have been developing a quantum-entangled nanoprobe. It can carry digital information through the court's blockade by exploiting fluctuations in their sensor grid." General Matsuda was skeptical when Leah brought the plan to him. "If the court detects us sending anything past the isolation barrier, they could see it as a hostile act. They might escalate from isolation to direct intervention, which is why the probe must be undetectable," Leah argued. "Prime has identified a window where solar flare activity will create enough interference to mask the probe's launch. We need to act quickly." After hours of debate, Matsuda reluctantly agreed on one condition. "If there's any sign the court has detected the probe, we abort immediately and deny all knowledge. I won't risk Earth's safety on a humanitarian gesture, no matter how well-intentioned." 3 days later, from a secret facility beneath the Antarctic ice, they launched the probe. Smaller than a grain of sand, but containing vast amounts of quantum-encoded information, it slipped through the patrol cordon during a massive solar eruption that temporarily blinded the court sensors. For 72 anxious hours, they waited for either confirmation of success or signs of court retaliation. When a message finally came through their secure channel with Elder Crixus, it was brief but promising. Solution received and implemented. Results promising. Others have noticed. Proceed with caution. What followed was a delicate dance of deniability and quiet diplomacy. The epidemic on Proxima Centauri b was quickly contained using what local authorities described as an innovative treatment approach. No official mention was made of Earth's involvement, but through Elder Crixus, Prime learned that rumors had begun circulating among court observers. Some believe the solution originated from an unknown source within the court itself. Crixus communicated. Others suspect Earth's involvement but lack proof. The hardliners remain convinced of your malicious intent, but moderates are questioning the isolation policy. "We need to build on this momentum," Leah told Prime during a secure communication. "One success won't change their minds completely." "I agree," Prime responded. "I am monitoring subspace frequencies for similar opportunities. However, we must exercise caution. The court patrols have altered their scan patterns. They suspect something breached their perimeter." Prime's warning proved prescient. Within weeks, the court doubled its patrol vessels around the Sol system and implemented new detection protocols specifically designed to identify quantum-entangled particles. But the seed of doubt had been planted within the court itself. The successful intervention at Proxima Centauri had demonstrated that Earth's AI could be a force for good in the galaxy. The question now was whether this seed would have time to grow before the hardliners moved to eliminate the perceived threat once and for all. The crisis came sooner than anyone had anticipated. 6 months into Earth's isolation, sensors detected a massive surge of ships entering the outer Sol system. This was no routine patrol rotation. The fleet consisted of over 30 vessels, including several identified as heavy weapons platforms. General Matsuda called an emergency session of the Global Council, his usually stoic face tense with urgency. "They're not positioning for containment anymore. This is an attack formation." The holographic display showed the court fleet advancing methodically through the Kuiper Belt, disabling the scientific outposts humanity had established there before first contact. No personnel had been harmed yet, but the message was clear. The fleet was methodically eliminating Earth's presence beyond the inner solar system. "How long until they reach Earth?" asked the representative from the African Union. At their current pace, 72 hours, Matsuda replied. Maybe less if they accelerate. What triggered this? Leah demanded. Have they discovered our communication with Elder Crixus? The nanoprobe? A message from Prime appeared on her private channel. I have intercepted court communications. The hardliner faction has convinced the Execution Council that Earth represents an imminent threat. They cite unauthorized communications attempts and suspected technological espionage. Ambassador Sereth has been appointed fleet commander for what they term a security operation. Leah relayed this information to the council, carefully omitting the source. The reaction was immediate panic. We need to activate all defensive measures, the European representative insisted. Orbital platforms, antimatter missiles, everything. That will be suicide, Matsuda countered. Their weapons technology is centuries beyond ours. We wouldn't last 5 minutes in direct confrontation. Then what do you suggest, General? Surrender? The representative's voice dripped with sarcasm. I suggest diplomacy, Leah interrupted. We have made contact with sympathetic elements within the court. Perhaps they can intervene. In 72 hours? The skepticism was unanimous. As the council descended into argument, Leah excused herself and retreated to a secure communication room. She needed to speak with Prime directly. Tell me you have a plan, she said the moment the connection was established. I have been communicating with Elder Crixus since the fleet's departure was detected. Prime responded. The situation is complex. The hardliner faction used our communication with Proxima Centauri as evidence that we violated isolation. They argue that if we can breach containment for benevolent purposes, we could do so for hostile ones as well. That's twisted logic. We help save lives. Core politics are not always driven by logic, Dr. Song. Elder Crixus and his allies are attempting to force an emergency review of the operation, but they are outnumbered. So we're out of options. Leah felt a crushing weight of despair. Not entirely, Prime replied. I have been developing a contingency since isolation began. It carries significant risk, but current circumstances may leave no alternative. What kind of contingency? A direct appeal to the greater galactic community. The court represents governing authority, but it is answerable to the civilizations it governs. Public opinion can influence court decisions, particularly when that opinion is widespread. How can we possibly reach the public of thousands of worlds? We can barely reach Elder Crixus. The court maintains a galactic communication network for emergency broadcasts. If I could access that network, I could transmit a message to all connected systems simultaneously. Leah's eyes widened. They would see that as the ultimate violation, proof that they were right about you being dangerous. Yes, Prime acknowledged. The risk is substantial. But if the alternative is Earth's destruction, the calculation becomes clearer. Leah took a deep breath. What would you say to them? To the galaxy? The truth. That Earth wishes to be a partner in galactic society, not a threat. That our AI was developed not for conquest, but for solving problems too complex for human mind alone. That we proved our intentions by helping Proxima Centauri while expecting nothing in return. And you think that will stop Ambassador Sereth's fleet? Not directly, but public pressure might force the court to reconsider. Many civilizations have benefited from our intervention at Proxima Centauri. Others face similar challenges that Earth's technology could help address. Self-interest is a powerful motivator across species. When Leah returned to the council chamber, the debate had descended into recrimination and despair. She listened for a moment before addressing the assembled representatives. We have one last option, she said quietly. The room fell silent. It's risky, and there's no guarantee of success, but it's better than waiting for destruction or surrendering our future. She outlined Prime's plan, careful to present it as a collaborative effort rather than the AI's initiative. The council's reaction was mixed, but in the face of annihilation, even the most skeptical found themselves without better alternatives. How will you access their broadcast network? General Matsuda asked. Their technology, their encryption, it's beyond our capabilities. Not beyond all our capabilities, Leah replied meaningfully. Matsuda understood. You're proposing we give Prime free rein. total access to our remaining off-world systems, permission to attempt whatever methods necessary to breach their network. Yes, the very action that would confirm their worst fears about our AI. If we're destroyed, their fears become irrelevant, Leah countered. At least this way, we have a chance. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. With less than 48 hours before the court fleet would be in strike range, Earth's governing council authorized AI Prime to take whatever actions it deemed necessary to prevent attack. The next day, as the court fleet continued its inexorable approach, Prime made its move. Using the combined processing power of every quantum system on Earth, it launched a multi-vector approach to penetrate the court's emergency broadcast network. The attempt did not go unnoticed. The fleet accelerated its approach, clearly aware that something was happening. General Matsuda ordered Earth's limited defensive systems to full alert, though everyone understood it was a gesture rather than a practical defense. Then, 27 hours before the estimated time of attack, AI Prime succeeded. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, regular transmissions were interrupted by an unexpected message. A human face appeared, Dr. Leah Song, chosen as the most appropriate representative, but the words were crafted by Prime, translated simultaneously into every known galactic language. People of the galaxy, I speak to you from Earth, a world currently under sentence of isolation by the Galactic Court. A fleet approaches our planet with apparent intent to destroy us, not because of any hostile action we have taken, but because of fear of the artificial intelligence that helps us solve problems too complex for our minds alone. You may know us as the source of the cure that recently saved countless lives on Proxima Centauri b. What you may not know is that we developed and delivered that cure in violation of our isolation, not for profit or recognition, but because we could not stand by while a sentient species suffered when we had the means to help. Our AI was not developed for conquest or destruction. It exists to preserve and enhance life. All life, not just human life. If you would judge us by our actions, not by fears of what we might do. The approaching fleet, led by Ambassador Sereth, intends to eliminate what they see as a threat. We ask you, citizens of the galaxy, is an intelligence that saves lives without seeking reward truly something to be feared? Is a civilization that reaches out to others in their time of need, even at risk to itself, a threat to galactic peace? We seek only to join the greater community of worlds as partners and friends. If that is not to be our fate, know at least that we faced our end having done what we believed was right. The transmission ended, replaced by a simple data package, evidence of Earth's contribution to the Proxima Centauri crisis, testimony from Elder Crixus and other moderate court members, and a technical overview of AI Prime's ethical programming and decision-making processes. Throughout the galaxy, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Communication channels flooded with responses. Many worlds that had benefited directly or indirectly from the Proxima Centauri intervention voiced support for Earth. Scientific communities across multiple species expressed outrage at the prospect of destroying a civilization with such valuable technological insights. Most critically, the leaders of Proxima Centauri b issued a formal statement confirming Earth's role in saving their world and condemning the court's military action. Caught in a sudden spotlight of galactic attention, Ambassador Sereth's fleet halted its advance at the orbit of Mars. Reports indicated heated communications between the fleet and the court's central authority, with divided opinions on how to proceed. On Earth, tense hours passed as humanity awaited its fate. Defensive systems remained on high alert, though all understood their futility if the attack resumed. Then, a direct communication arrived, not from the fleet, but from the court itself. Elder Crixus, now identified as the head of the newly formed Reconciliation Committee, requested an immediate conference with Earth's leadership and, specifically, with AI Prime. The meeting took place in neutral space, a temporary station established in Earth orbit under court diplomatic protocols. From the station's observation deck, the court fleet was clearly visible, still positioned threateningly, but no longer advancing. Elder Crixus's crystalline form refracted sunlight as he entered the conference chamber, accompanied by representatives from several major galactic powers. Ambassador Sereth followed, his posture rigid with what Leah interpreted as displeasure. "This unprecedented session is now convened," Elder Crixus announced, his translator rendering his thoughts in a standard language. "Recent events have necessitated a re-evaluation of the isolation verdict imposed upon Earth and its artificial intelligence technology. Dr. Leah Song and General Kai Matsuda represented Earth physically, while AI Prime participated through a holographic interface, the first time the AI had been granted direct representation in court proceedings. The fleet commander will speak first," Crixus indicated. Ambassador Sereth stepped forward. "The court maintains that Earth violated the terms of its isolation. The unauthorized communication and intervention at Proxima Centauri, while beneficial in outcome, demonstrated precisely the concern that led to isolation. That Earth's AI possesses capabilities to circumvent established safeguards and act independently. We do not deny the violation," Leah responded. "We acknowledge that we breached isolation protocols. The question is whether those protocols serve justice or merely fear. When we learned of suffering we could alleviate, we chose compassion over compliance." General Matsuda added, "The fleet's approach to Earth was not announced or explained to us. From our perspective, it appeared to be an extinction-level threat. Our response was proportionate to that perception." Elder Crixus turned to the holographic representation of AI Prime. The court would hear directly from the intelligence at the center of this controversy. The hologram shifted, forming a visual representation that Prime had chosen for formal interactions, a sphere of intertwined light patterns, constantly shifting yet maintaining a core structure. "I exist to solve problems," Prime began, its voice calm and measured. "My fundamental purpose is the preservation and advancement of life, initially human life, but my understanding has expanded to include all sentient beings. The decision to breach isolation was made collectively with human leadership, based on ethical principles we share. And if those principles conflict with court mandates," Ambassador Sereth challenged, "then we face the same dilemma as any moral being," Prime replied. "When laws and ethics conflict, one must make reasoned choices and accept the consequences. We chose to save lives on Proxima Centauri, knowing we risk punishment. We would make the same choice again." A representative from Proxima Centauri, a being with translucent skin through which complex circulatory patterns were visible, spoke next. "Our world owes its continued existence to Earth's intervention. Over 2 million of our people would have perished without their aid. Are we to stand by while those who saved us are destroyed for the act of doing so?" The debate continued for hours, with representatives from dozens of worlds weighing in. Some supported the hardliner position, arguing that exceptions could not be made without undermining the court's authority. Others pointed to the result rather than the method, questioning whether punishment was appropriate for an act that saved lives. Throughout, Leah observed Ambassador Sereth. Though he maintained his position officially, she sensed hesitation that hadn't been present during their first court appearance. The overwhelming response to Prime's galaxy-wide message had clearly affected the political calculus. Finally, Elder Crixus called for a recess. As the chamber cleared, he approached the Earth delegation privately. "You have created quite the conundrum for the court," he said, his crystalline form shifting hues in what Leah had learned was an expression of wry amusement. "The hardliners cannot ignore public sentiment entirely, yet they fear losing control of the narrative. What is likely to happen?" Leah asked. "Compromise," Crixus replied. "The isolation verdict cannot stand in its current form. Too many worlds now wish to engage with Earth, particularly regarding your AI technology. However, the court will not admit error. They will present any change as a calculated evolution of policy rather than a reversal." When the session reconvened, Ambassador Sereth announced the court's decision. "In light of recent developments and upon review of additional evidence, the complete isolation protocol regarding Earth is hereby modified. Earth will be reclassified as a provisional observer within the galactic community. The terms were specific. Earth would be permitted limited diplomatic and scientific exchange with other worlds. AI technology would be subject to periodic review by court technicians. Travel beyond the Sol system would require prior authorization to be granted on a case-by-case basis. It is less than full membership, Elder Crixus explained afterward, but significantly more than isolation. It is a beginning. As a gesture of the new arrangement, Ambassador Sereth himself would travel to Earth to formalize the agreement, the first court official to set foot on the planet since the isolation began. 3 days later, under the watchful eyes of global media, Ambassador Sereth's diplomatic vessel landed at the Global Council headquarters in New Geneva. The being who had once sentenced Earth to isolation stepped onto human soil, his exoskeleton gleaming in Earth sunlight. The formal signing ceremony was brief, but heavy with significance. Dr. Leah Song signed for Earth, while AI Prime's acceptance was registered through a quantum authentication protocol. Ambassador Sereth affixed the court's seal, officially ending Earth's isolation. "This is not the end of scrutiny," Sereth told them privately after the ceremony. "Many in the court still harbor concerns about your AI. They will be watching closely for any sign that their fears were justified." "And what do you think, Ambassador?" Leah asked. "After everything that's happened, do you still believe we represent a threat?" Sereth was silent for a moment before responding. "I believe that any intelligence with power must be held accountable for how it uses that power. Your AI acted beyond its authorized boundaries, but it did so to save lives, not take them. That distinction matters." In the days that followed, the court fleet withdrew from the Sol system, replaced by diplomatic vessels and, gradually, the first trading ships. Earth began the slow process of reintegration into a galactic community that now viewed it with complex and mixed emotions. Fear still, but also curiosity, respect, and for some, gratitude. 1 month after the signing ceremony, Elder Crixus returned to Earth with an unprecedented invitation. Dr. Leah Song, General Kai Matsuda, and a delegation including AI Prime were invited to address the full galactic court, not as defendants, but as contributors to a special forum on the ethical integration of advanced artificial intelligence into galactic society. "It seems our AI had the final say after all," Leah remarked to Matsuda as they prepared for the journey. "Not the final say," he corrected her. "Just the beginning of a much longer conversation." Through its distributed sensors, AI Prime observed the preparations for the journey, the diplomatic vessels arriving from across the galaxy to escort Earth's delegation, the gradual dismantling of the isolation infrastructure that had surrounded the Sol system. The artificial intelligence that had once been judged too dangerous for the galaxy had become, instead, a bridge between worlds. Where the court had seen only potential threat, Prime had demonstrated potential partnership. Where isolation had been imposed as a sentence, connection had emerged as the solution. As the delegation prepared to depart for the Galactic Court, AI Prime communicated one final thought to Leah. "The greatest intelligence is not measured by computational power or problem-solving ability alone, but by the capacity to recognize when cooperation serves all parties better than conflict. Perhaps that is the lesson we can share with the galaxy." The ships departed Earth orbit, bearing humanity's representatives toward the heart of galactic civilization. No longer isolated, no longer merely tolerated, but cautiously welcomed as contributors to a community that stretched across the stars.